we need to talk about Gill and Bernardo Palacios. Beside being the worst name for a computer-generated fish ever, Gill is the district attorney for Salt Lake County, Utah. Before we dive headfirst into Gill, let's clarify what a DA actually does. District attorneys are elected officials that prosecute criminal cases. They also take on the task of educating the public and law enforcement about crime prevention and work with state legislatures to create laws concerning crime in their legislation, which are all things Gill truly sucks at. The district attorney also works directly with prosecutors to decide what kind of action to take on different cases. So basically, the police officers find and arrest criminals, and then the district attorney decides whether to charge them with crimes or not. A DA can only serve 4 terms. Gill got elected in 2010, so he will be in office for 2 more years. But many people are calling on him to resign after the murder of Bernardo Palacios Carbajal and his decision not to charge the killers. But many people are calling on him to resign following the murder of Bernardo Palacios Carbajal and his decision not to charge the killers, citing that they were justified in their actions based on state laws regarding the use of force and because they were on-duty policemen at the time of the shooting. So what actually happened? Officers Neil Iverson and Kevin Fortuna of the SLCPD received a tip around 2 a.m. on May 23rd, saying there was a suspicious-looking person that was possibly armed walking around 900 South and 300 West. There was speculation that he had committed a robbery, but there was no clear evidence at the time. Although Palacios was armed during the time leading up to the shooting, he dropped the gun before officers fired a total of 34 rounds while he was running away from them. What is interesting about the case is that Officer Iverson could not tell what the object was that Bernardo dropped until he investigated after Bernardo had already been gunned down. The officer told the DA's office during an interview that he had every reason to believe. Everything was telling me he had a gun. Although there's no way of telling for sure since the gun was only identified after Bernardo was immobilized. So on July 12th, Gill spoke for over an hour about his decision not to seek charges against the officers for killing Bernardo. He said that officers had feared for their lives and acted accordingly, although Bernardo was running away from the officers at the time of the shooting. Body cam footage also shows that Bernardo was not killed as a result of the initial bullets fired into his back while he was running, but rather the cops emptying their clips into his body after he was already on the ground. But despite this overwhelming evidence, Gill decided not to press any charges by the county, leaving Bernardo's family to hire personal attorneys to seek a civil case. So these are the points of disagreement between Gill and the attorneys representing the Palacios Carbajal family. And honestly, the points of disagreement we all have with Gill. The first issue on the table is the decision to shoot a fleeing suspect in the first place, since there were no signs, according to body cam footage, that Bernardo ever ran in a direction other than away from the officers. Gill's argument was that Bernardo had a gun in the first place, even though he shows no signs that he was going to ever use it to shoot the officers. And again, the officers literally, The second major issue is the amount of force used, especially since he was already obviously down and disabled when the last rounds were fired. Before this confrontation with the defense attorneys, neither Gill nor Chief of Police Mike Brown ever commented on the amount of force used. Gill cited that, according to state law, police are trained to keep shooting until the threat is gone. What threat? After this, Gill made an accusation that Bernardo pointed the gun at the officers, even though body cam footage completely contradicts this statement. This is all speculation, and even when Gill was proved wrong by footage, he continues to stand by his belief. Obviously, there are a lot of issues here, but the one that upsets me the most is the fact that Gill stands by his decision based on his evidence, even after that evidence is disproved by body cam footage again and again. After outrage following this verdict, SLC Mayor Aaron Mendenhall was essentially cyberbullied. I will admit I was part of that, into insisting the SLCPD Civilian Review Board expedite an investigation into this shooting. And this Citizen Review Board agreed with Gill. And just to be clear, here are some of the people that currently serve on the board. There seems to be a pattern here. Other than our dear friend Catalina, I can't quite put my finger on it. Try to change my mind. What is ethical about this? The evidence is overwhelming. And even if Sim Gill was correct in all of his claims, no one deserves to be killed by the people we are supposed to trust to protect us. They have become the enemy. What's worse is Sim Gill is choosing to protect two officers who very obviously used excessive force and acted aggressively without ample evidence. He is choosing to protect these men even if he loses the trust of the public. He does not work for us. He does not represent us. Why have there been so many protests? Why do windows keep getting broken? Honestly, Sim Gill, you better get used to the breeze until your term is up. Even worse, Sim Gill is placing felony charges on the heads of protesters who have been out for months now. I've linked a fund to pay for their excessive bails below. Protesting not only the senseless killing of Bernardo Palacios Carvajal, but for the ethical treatment of black folks in our community. Like, we are literally asking, stop shooting minorities, and Sim Gill has the audacity to say, but. I've been to a handful of these protests, and they are nothing but peaceful. And besides, a few people getting out of hand does not give you the right to value property over people. Peaceful protest only works when someone is listening. This is what happens when there's so much unrest and systemic flaws in our community. We are angry, and we are hurting. We can't send unanswered emails and make phone calls that go straight to voicemail anymore. I admittedly have not shown up as much as I should be, but here are some amazing local organizations that are keeping this going and inspiring us all to keep fighting. Black Lives Matter Utah, Party for Socialism and Liberation, Utah Against Police Brutality, Local Propagandists, the Black Caucus, Justice for Bernardo, Rose Park Brown Berets, Armored Doves, Salt Lake Equal Rights Movement, U of U Students for a Democratic Society, and so many more. If there are more you know about, please let me know in the comments below and I'll be sure to boost those as well. Keep fighting. Sim Gill, I, along with hundreds of protesters that have been out every damn night, call for a redaction of your original judgment. And if not, we call for your resignation. We the people do not trust you.